Hello, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, relationship-development.com and humanity-upgrade.com. Today, I am with Dr. Carol Morgan, college professor at Wright University. She's also an online dating expert. I want to read about a little bit of her bio here, then we're going to have a really nice discussion about how to date more effectively, for sure. Dr. Carol Morgan has a PhD in gender and interpersonal communication and is a dating and relationship coach and also a professor at Wright University. In addition, she is a keynote speaker, the author of several books, and a regular expert on the TV show Living Dayton in Ohio, obviously. She also writes relationship articles for various popular websites. Her articles have been shared on social media over 1 million times. So we have a celebrity here. And before we were talking, I was asking, I had some statistics about online dating and marriages. The most recent data I found is that 20% of marriages recently are from people who met online. Carol, did I miss anything on the introduction? Anything you want to add?
No, you did it perfectly. Although I don't know that I'm a celebrity, but I'll take it.
TV, millions of views. Does that statistic, does that jive with your understanding of how online dating, et cetera, is going? It's really an important piece if somebody wants to meet somebody, I think.
It is. I mean, I'm divorced, and I found my current boyfriend on Plenty of Fish, actually, which is an online dating site. So I did online dating for many years. And, I was a single mom of, back then, like a long time ago, 3- and 5-year-old boys. And so it was really hard. You can't just say to your friends, hey, let's go hang out at the bar on a Saturday night, because most of my friends were married with little kids. And so online dating was just like a blessing to me, because you could be really choosy. You could see exactly who people are before you walk out the door and actually meet someone. So I think as time, because that was like back in 2006, and as time has gone on in the last, 13 years or so, I think this is really the primary way that people meet. I mean, I know people meet in real life too, but, especially say middle-aged people who are divorced, it's just a lot easier to sit on your phone or your computer and try to look for love, So
Yeah.
really convenient.
Yeah. So interesting. So let's take one step back before we get to online, and let's talk about you're single and you're really interested in a relationship, sharing your life with somebody. What are some key principles? What are the things you need to get straight in your head before you even embark on this journey?
It's funny, because I think as we grow up, nobody teaches us about relationships, right? We don't have a relationship 101 class in high school, grade school, college. What we get is we watch our parents' relationships and we model kind of haphazardly what they have. If it's good, great. If it's not, then it's kind of bad. So, I mean, myself included, when I was younger, my only criteria for who I would date would be like, oh, you're cute, you're nice, you're fun, cool, let's go out. I mean, it's very shallow stuff, but nobody tells us that we need to look for something deeper. And so that's what I learned from my divorce is he's a perfectly nice man, my ex-husband. Like, we got along great on the surface. Our surface personalities really clicked, at least in the beginning. As time went on, obviously that wasn't true. And one of the reasons we didn't work out is that the core of who we are is just so different. When I say core, that means a lot of things. It could be like I'm more of an extrovert, and the surface he seemed like an extrovert, but he was really an introvert. Like, it would be pulling teeth to try to get him off the couch or go do something on the weekend, where I'm like, let's go do something. And so that frustrated me. Or just, what values you have, anything from religion to politics to something simple like I'm a person of my word, or I'm always on time, or you just those little things that aren't really little things, you kind of need to look for. And so it's important to really figure out, first of all, who you are, so you can write down, like, what are my core values? What are my deal breakers, basically? Like, what do I need to have in a partner? And what is, I could probably live with. And so it's important to know who you are, to love yourself. This is what I see a lot of people do, and where they go wrong is sometimes they look to find somebody to fulfill them, like to make, like they don't have love for themselves, and so they need somebody to love them. And that almost never works. So you have to work on loving yourself, knowing, your value system, who you are, your personality quirks, and what you do and don't like in other people. And then once you're clear on it, then you can really kind of embark into finding somebody who's actually compatible with you. Between my current boyfriend and my ex-husband, I had a fiance who actually was my first love from back in college. And back then we broke up, got back together. It was a kind of a tumultuous relationship, but since it was my first love, you know how that goes. And like, oh, you always think about them. And so after we both got divorced, we got back together for a while, and we could not have been more opposite. I'm an extrovert, he's an introvert. I'm ambitious, he's not. You go down the list. We were so opposite. And at first I'm like, oh, that's cute, we're so opposite. And then as time went on, I'm like, we are too opposite. So even me, I didn't give a lot of thought to the compatibility with people in the beginning. So after those two experiences, with my ex-husband and ex-fiance, I really woke up and like, okay, I really need to figure out who I want, and look at the other person without rose-colored glasses on, and see, if their personality really jives with yours, because that's really key.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your opinion. My opinion is that opposites might be a little bit of a novelty at first, but they really don't set things up for long-term predictability in a relationship.
No. And that's why the boyfriend I'm with now, why we are so compatible. I mean, we're almost like the same person. Obviously, we're not exactly the same person, but we just get each other. Like we don't really even have to work at it. We just we have the same viewpoint, same values, same personality. I don't know if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality test, but
sure.
I'm an ENFJ, and I actually asked some of my people before I went out with them, are you an introvert or extrovert? It seems like just a friendly question, but I was really testing compatibility. And so when I asked him, he went and took the test, and he said, I'm an ENFJ. I'm like, wait a minute, that's what I am. I'm not saying that's why we get along so well, but it sure doesn't hurt, that compatibility. So, in the long run, you're right. Similarities, I think, are more important.
Right. So I loved what you said about getting in touch with who you are first.
Yeah.
And determining where you want to go, what you want to do, and then find somebody who wants to come along with you. Don't change your life because you like the way they look, or they're good at playing football or something silly like that. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. And most people, would you say that most people do or don't do that? Most people don't.
Oh, no, I don't think they do. I found that a lot of people don't even like looking at themselves, metaphorically, looking themselves in the mirror. Like it's almost painful to them. And, I guess it's rooted in the past and childhood. And, I teach family communication too. And one of the things I tell my students is, when you're parents someday, watch every single thing you say to your child, because your voice will become their voice someday. So if we hear growing up our parents saying, oh, you're lazy, you'll never amount to anything, or, you're fat, negative things, we're going to believe it. If we hear things like, I'm proud of you, you're beautiful, you can do it, we're going to believe that too. So, a lot of people have a hard time, especially if they had parents that weren't necessarily positive, have a hard time looking at themselves because they don't think that they're a particularly good person. But It doesn't mean that you're not a good person just because somebody told you that, you
Yeah.
know. So I think it is difficult for people to really look at themselves. But really, that's the only way I've found, people that I know in successful relationships really do know themselves and love themselves. As they say, you can't give what you don't have. Like, you can't give others people love if you don't love yourself first. And so that's where I see a lot of people go wrong, that they're looking for this love, but they don't love themselves, and they're wondering why they're not attracting someone who loves them. Well, it's because they don't love themselves first.
Yeah. That awful line from Jerry Maguire, "You complete me." Oh,
Yeah, that's a bad line.
oh, that's bad. That's one of the worst ever. Tell
Yeah.
me, it really intrigues me. Tell me gender and interpersonal communication. And
Hmm.
let me preface that question. How do you look at, are there fundamental differences? I know this might be a little bit of a politically hot topic, but as a scientist, are there fundamentally different characteristics between men and women, besides the obvious XY chromosome physical
Hmm.
thing? Are there fundamental behavioral differences that are documented scientifically?
Yeah, and there's really two camps of thought, the nature versus nurture, the biological differences versus how we're socialized. And, nobody can deny that we are biologically different. Men are just physically stronger, women are built for childbearing, our brains are different. So, you can't argue that point. What you can kind of debate, though, is how we're socialized. I have two older sisters, and a dad who was really like the sensitive guy. He was more emotional than my mom. I always joke that they were kind of gender role reversed, because she was the strong one. She was a disciplinarian. She didn't cry except like when her mom died. And my dad would cry at a sad commercial, or, so it was very different. And, growing up in a family of girls, and then I have two boys now who are teenagers, and I used to think you can socialize kids out of, not that I want to socialize them out of being masculine, but I noticed that there's a lot of inborn differences. They were more likely to, say, hit each other than my sisters and I were, just that natural instinct. But at the same time, a lot of who we are really is socialized. I like to explain, see, a lot of people use the terms gender and sex interchangeably, but at least in the research world, we separate the two of them, and we say that sex is just the biological characteristics that you're born with, and gender is more psychological and socialized. I mean, we have seen a lot more in the media recently about transgender people. And I'm not even talking about transgender people per se, but when I'm in class, I talk about gender existing on a continuum. So at one end, you have very stereotypical feminine behavior. On the other end, you have very stereotypical masculine behavior. And then most of us are somewhere in the middle. In the middle, it's called androgyny, and a lot of people misinterpret that word too. A lot of people think that androgyny means, well, we don't know if you're a man or a woman, we can't tell. But really, androgyny means that you have kind of an equal balance of masculine and feminine traits and characteristics. I consider myself quite androgynous because, like, on the outside, I look feminine, I wear makeup, I do my hair, I wear jewelry, but psychologically and emotionally, I tend to be more masculine. I'm not the woman who cries because I have a bad day, and I'm very logical like a man. So gender really is kind of fluid, and it's different for everybody. There are some people at the extremes for sure, but most of us are somewhere else on that. And gender has nothing to do with sexual preference either. It's just, a set of behaviors that somebody has. That's how I explain it anyway.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, no, that's a great explanation. Yeah. So, because it has become a difficult topic for a lot of people.
Yes.
Basically the academic world, in my opinion, really can answer that the best in an unemotional way, especially the
Right.
psychology world. Yeah, because we're
It's amazing though how many people get really upset when you want to redefine the term gender. Even like my own mom, like she's like, no, gender is male or female. I'm like, you can say that, but it's just way more complex than that. And I think people just don't quite understand that, which is, but
Yeah, no, excellent, excellent. All right, so let's get into some nitty gritty with,
Yeah.
because we talked in the preamble here about, how people portray themselves on these dating websites.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't do it in a healthy way. I was giving you the
No.
example of the very attractive woman, and she says, I want to find on the top, I want to find somebody I can trust. So the
Yeah.
subliminal message is, I don't trust you from the very beginning,
Right.
and I'm going to hold against you what other people did to me in the past, and that's how
Exactly.
we're going to start things out. So what are some of the pitfalls and the do's and don'ts?
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's an excellent example. And I think that's what a lot of people overlook. It sounds okay to say, I want somebody I can trust. But like you said, what is it really saying? And that's what a lot of people don't put enough thought into, not only when they're looking at other people's profiles, but when they're writing their own. So, gosh, do's and don'ts. Let's, I guess, start with maybe writing the profile, what you should or shouldn't say. Like um, so many people just kind of either leave it blank, you know, and to me that says I'm too lazy to even write anything. So if you're going to be too
Ah,
lazy to write something, you're going to be lazy probably in our relationship, right? To me, like doing your online dating profile and dating, and it's like a job interview. You should want to put your best, you know, personality forward, right? You're trying to have somebody like you and find somebody to date, just like you're trying to find a job. And it doesn't mean that I think you should be fake. You should be yourself, but you should be the best version of yourself. So if you don't say anything, or if you maybe just write one or two sentences, I find a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like talking about myself. So if you want to know something, just ask." So, okay, you don't like
ah,
talking about yourself. Maybe they're trying to be humble, or maybe they're just using that as an excuse to not have to write anything because they're lazy or they don't know what to say, or maybe they have low self-esteem because they don't like talking about themselves. You can make a lot of assumptions about things like that. Whenever I see that, just ask me like, well, why do I have to do the work to get to know you? Why can't you, give me something to go on? So, you know, say something. I know it sounds kind of obvious, but there are a lot of people who don't say anything. And even just things like grammar and complete sentences and not typing in all capital letters, or just things like that, really make a difference. I know I'm kind of a grammar Nazi because I teach college and I grade papers, but if somebody can't even proofread what they wrote, if it's an obvious misspelling or one huge long run-on sentence, it doesn't give a great impression. I know not
right.
is that educated, so maybe they truly don't know how to write very well. But if you don't, at least have somebody else proofread it, and say, well, how does this look? So enlist your friends or people to help
Right.
you make it look better, because this is your first impression to the world. People, they find that men actually look at photos more and read the profiles a little less, but women read the profiles a little bit more and look at the photos a little bit less. So regardless, you should have something for the people to read about you. And you also shouldn't lie or stretch the truth in some way. I think they say that like 60 or 80% of people lie in some way, one way or the other, in their profiles. And women tend to lie about their age and their weight most, and men tend to lie about their height and their income most. But, those are gender stereotypes. Oh, women need to be beautiful and thin,
Right.
and men need to be the breadwinner, make a lot of money, be tall, dark, and handsome. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've met some men who, it seems like all the shorter men say they're 5'10". They say they're 5'10", and then you meet them, and some 5'6", and I meet them like, I think you're about my height. So you're not 5'10", So, and I also have not that many, but a couple of people that I had met don't look anything like their pictures too. Like one in particular, I had to do a double take. It was like years ago, So you might think you look like that, but maybe you really don't. So yeah, so don't lie, don't stretch the truth. I had a friend once, like, I don't know, I was in my mid 40s at the time, and I said something about not getting as many like responses as I did when I was in my 30s. And she's like, well, just lie, just say you're 39. You can pass for 39. And I'm like, no, I don't want to start off a relationship with a lie, you know? And some people do, I guess, but you know, how are you going to break, if you really like the person, how are you going to break it to them? Like, ooh, whoops, sorry, I'm really not 39. I'm a different age. So, you know, just be honest. If somebody doesn't want you because you're a certain age or you do something, then they're not a good fit for you. You know, it's about the right attitude. And then also, like you said, like, don't be negative. There's so many people who are negative in what they write. And I understand they're trying to like weed out people, like, you know, I don't do drug users, or I don't like drama, or if you smoke, you know, just keep swiping, or, you know, I understand, okay, you don't want a smoker, or you don't want a drug user, or someone with drama. But like you said, it kind of shows some red flags, like, okay, you the people I think who say, I don't want any drama, probably create drama or have been in drama. And if they have had a lot of drama, why have they had a lot of drama? Is it because of them? Why do they keep attracting people with drama? You know, so you can say those things nicely, but not negatively. You know, like, I prefer somebody who, you know, doesn't drink or do drugs, you know, or so it can say it then just like, hey, you can't be like this, you know. Just,
you know, I live a clean lifestyle, you know, and you just
right.
Exactly.
I'd like somebody who's the same.
Right. Yeah, so it really is interesting because that little snapshot of what you decide to put online is really extremely telling. Is that old?
Oh yeah.
There's that old saying, the drop is in the ocean, but also the ocean's in the drop. You know, you can really, yeah, it's like a holographic picture of who they are.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. Yeah. So
okay.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say it's really important that you learn how to read those signs too, because I've heard so many people have these horror stories of, they start talking to a guy and then they start sending him, you know, like naked pictures of themselves, and they're like, why do you guys always do that? And me, honestly, no man has ever done that to me. And, you know, I'm like, well, why is it? I think it's the vibe I put out. You know, like, my pictures aren't all like sexy. You know, I have a very like professional reading profile. And I think they probably don't realize that their profile, whatever's in them, maybe it's pictures, maybe they say, or maybe attracting those kind of men who do that. So if they could learn to read the men's profiles a little bit, you know, read between the lines, maybe they wouldn't keep attracting those kind of weirdos. So.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of pitfalls. So let me see. Let's go. So you mentioned something about pictures.
Yeah.
You talked about emailing and texting before you meet. You have some advice for that?
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about photos first? Because that's, I guess, part of okay. Yeah, I touched on it, but not a lot. That's another area a lot of people really don't put a lot of thought into. Like what I said, recent photos, you know, you might think like you still look like you're in high school, but, you know, if you're 45, 50, 60 years old, you don't, you know. So, you know, make it as recent as possible, last 6 months or a year, maybe tops. You know, people can even change a lot in a year. You know, you could gain weight or whatnot. I had a couple of friends of mine who did their own profile, and they said, oh, you got to take a look at, you know, tell me what you think. And both of them were slightly overweight. You know, they weren't like fat or anything, but they both just like had a picture of their face and like no body picture. Or I think one of them had a body picture, but it was, you know, like 50 pounds ago, you know, so it's misleading. And so I always say that I would much rather have somebody look at me on the first date and go, wow, you look a lot better than your photos, or at least you look like your photos. You know, I wouldn't want them looking at me going, whoa, where's the door? You know,
Right.
anything. And I've heard so many people say that, you know, the person just does not look like their pictures. So you want to make them realistic. You know, even if you're not the most beautiful person on earth, you know, somebody will find you attractive. So make them realistic. Try to stay away from the, you know, the sexy photos that especially a lot of women do, you know, with the low cut or, you know, the duck lips, and, you know, they think it's sexy and that that's going to attract a man, and it will. But what kind of man? You know, like my boyfriend said, he commented after we were going out how my pictures, like, I'm all like buttoned up and, you know, I'm not showing anything. And he's like, you know, that's probably why you never got those weirdos like contacting you, because they tell that you wouldn't stand for it. So it doesn't mean you can't have a nice dress on or whatnot, but, you know, not overtly sexual. And even with men, you know, the shirt's off. I mean, if you're on a beach and it's obvious, it's, hey, I'm on vacation and he doesn't have his shirt on, cool. But, you know, a lot of men will be like in a public bathroom with a selfie, you know, you know, like, why a public bathroom, number one? Don't you have a friend to take it? And you don't really need your shirt off. You know, usually when I see men with their shirt off, you know what they're looking for. So, you know, try to stay away from those sexy photos because, you know, unfortunately, there are a lot of people, especially men out there, who are just looking for sex. And I mean, if that's what you're looking for, well, okay. But if you're looking for a real relationship, that's probably not the best image out. I find a lot of men to like to post, here's this huge fish that I just caught, or here's a picture of my motorcycle. I'm not on it, but that's my motorcycle, or here's my house. And, you know, I feel like saying, I'm not dating your motorcycle. You know, I'm dating you. I want to see you. I don't want to see a fish or a motorcycle. You know, it's kind of like they're bragging, oh, aren't I a cool dude? I have, you know, all this stuff. A lot of people make the mistake too of having a picture like where they're really far off in the distance and you can't see what they look like. Or a lot of people wear sunglasses and subconsciously that kind of says you have something to hide because you're kind of you can't see the eyes. And so you might think you look cool with your sunglasses, but I mean, you can have one, but just maybe not as your profile picture because it looks shady. You know,
no doubt.
So you want good close-ups, good lighting. You want full body shots too. I mean, let's face it, whether you're male or female, you kind of want to know what the body looks like. You know, just, you know, maybe normal clothes, but just some combination of face pictures and full body pictures, and you know, try to make it flattering. It's unbelievable how many people don't have flattering pictures up there. I mean, you can go from one end where it's too flattering, where say women use all these filters and they don't look like themselves, or it could be like really bad where, you know, you're like, wow, I can't believe you even thought of posting that because it's really not a good picture for you, you know?
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, good. So let's go on to emailing and texting before you meet, because that's that can be a quagmire for people, I would imagine.
Yeah. Everybody kind of has their own pace that they like to go on, like before they meet somebody. Like I'm a kind of person where I don't want to waste my time. You know, I don't want to email or text for a month and then meet the person and not like them. You know, I'd rather just meet as soon as possible, because then I don't, you know, you might love them when you're talking, but when you meet them, it might be a whole different story. You know, I've had men who were really funny and really interesting in the emails, and then when I met them, they were like a bump on a log. I'm like, you're the person? You know, so you really never know until you meet. But one thing I find too, just like in the initial emails, a lot of people get ignored, and I feel really sorry for them. Like if, say, like I send out an email to somebody that I liked, but they never respond. I mean, obviously it's saying sorry, not interested, but you know, it kind of just makes you feel a little inadequate when it happens. So when I was doing online dating, everyone who contacted me, I would always say something like, oh, you know, thank you. You know, you seem like a really great guy, but, you know, I'd say, maybe we're not a good match, or I just met someone, I'm going to see where it goes. And surprisingly, almost every single person writes back and says, wow, thank you so much for responding. I really respect that. And, good luck. And,
Right.
to me, it's just like a common courtesy to another human being, whether you don't want them or not. So I know it's kind of hard to respond to everyone, but you can have a ready, copy and paste email you just send to everyone. So it just makes them feel a little bit better that they were acknowledged at least. So, and then if you're sending an email, a lot of men in particular just send a first email like, hey, beautiful, or hey, what's up, or hey, gorgeous, or hey, sexy,
Right.
Well, it didn't take much effort. Second of all, they're probably writing it to everybody. So you want to say hi, whatever their name is, and
Right.
introduce yourself a little bit. I'm so-and-so, and I do this for a living, and I've been divorced for however long, and I really found your profile interesting, and I particularly liked that you like hiking, or mention something in their profile to show that you actually read their profile, and like in mine, I listed like a bunch of my favorite things, and one of them was Oprah and Dr. Phil, and in parentheses I said, ask me why. I kind of want to see if they were reading it, but I kind of just, wanted people to be curious. And so when somebody would email, so tell me, why do you like Oprah and Dr. Phil? Oh, that's kind of impressive. They not only read my profile, but they responded to that part. So
Right.
it's important to personalize it a little bit. I mean, you don't want to write like 10 paragraphs, but you want to write maybe a short paragraph connecting, making some sort of personal connection with them. And, obviously you don't want to give out any personal information or anything like that, because there are a lot of weirdos in the world. But I don't know. I always suggest to just kind of keep it to a minimum before you meet. But I understand a lot of people have scheduling issues, so it's hard to meet right away. But like I said, if you text too long or email too long, then
You don't want to waste time. Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah.
And honestly, there are a lot of people out there too who, like a lot of married people are on some of these sites, and I think they just want the attention, and so they don't really want to meet you. They just want to talk to you. So
Right.
you gotta wait for those people.
So would you, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead here, would you recommend, I mean, this is going to sound cold, but cycling through and meeting a lot of people quickly. Is that a good strategy? I mean, obviously within limits and reason, because you don't want to really, first thing you talked about, which is critical, is let's be open and honest.
Yeah.
Because if I'm telling you I'm 6 feet tall and I'm really 5'6", you already started off, you're sunk before you start. So
Right.
number one, be honest. And then number two, I think what you're saying is let's cycle through, like, let's get through the process quickly. I mean, I don't want to sound cold because this is dating, but it seems important.
No. Like I said, everybody has their own preferences. Like that was my strategy, because like, especially right after I got divorced, I didn't know if I was necessarily wanting to jump right into a serious relationship. I kind of just wanted to meet people and see what's out there, and maybe make some new friends, and whatever happened. So I dated a lot of people, it mostly just like a lunch date or a coffee date. Most of them were just one date, but it really helped me see who's out there and gave me a feel for it. But like, I have a friend who did online dating too, just about the same time. And she's like, wow, I don't know exactly what she said, but like, you're so confident to go out with all these guys so quickly. And I'm like, why not? I mean, for me, I had nothing to lose. Like, I don't mean this to sound egotistical, because I'm a pretty humble person, but I wanted to see if I liked them. I think a lot of other people have the opposite. Like, I hope they like me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not like perfect person, but I think I'm pretty cool. If they don't like me, they don't like me, but I hope I like them. So, I always had the mindset of like, I'm the job interviewer instead of the interviewee. I think that's a completely different frame of mind. So like people like my friend really did want to take their time and talk to people a while before they met them and talk to them on the phone and take a long time. And if that's what you'd rather do, I mean, that's fine. It's, you know, it's all an individual thing, but I personally, like I said, I don't like talking on the phone. I don't really like talking to strangers. Let's just meet and see if we click in
Yeah.
person. But
I mean, is it your psych? I mean, I'm the same way. Is it your psychology background that maybe you can just tell so much more by an in-person meeting? You
yeah,
know, yeah, it's just such a better way to do it, I would say. And
oh, it is.
it gives you, if you don't spend all that time, you just say, let's meet for coffee, and you know, let's see where it goes
Hmm.
from there. I mean, I think that's a really efficient way to do it. Yeah. So, and
It
another thing you touched on, which I really liked, I call it posture.
is.
Like,
Hmm.
you know, some people feel like, yeah, it's like they feel like, you know, you can tell immediately if somebody has the confidence to know that they're a good catch, so to speak.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And a lot of people, yeah. And that, for some people, that can be a turnoff if it's like, if it's
Hmm.
needy or whatever.
Right, and it's almost sometimes a intuitive thing, you know. It might not even be anything they say or do. It's just a vibe you get from them, you know. I mean, it could be something they say or do, but yeah, I mean, people like confident people. When I say confident, I don't mean cocky or, you know, narcissistic. You know, I always say that people who truly have good self-esteem don't have to go around telling people how great they are because they,
Sure.
you know, other people notice it. People who go around saying how great they are probably have low self-esteem and are trying to make themselves feel better. But um, yeah, I think that confidence is huge. And I've talked to a lot of men and asked, like, well, who would you rather go out with? Like someone who looks like a supermodel but is very insecure, or an average looking woman who's like really fun and loves herself. And almost all the time they say the average looking girl. I think a lot of women really get too hung up on looks, you know, because as we age and our, you know, our culture is just really hard on, well, everybody, but especially women for their looks. But men, I mean, men aren't quite as shallow as we think they are. I mean, men want a quality, confident woman. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the three-letter word there is fun.
yeah,
Want to have fun. They just want to
yeah,
enjoy and have fun. Like, you know, and that's the piece. Yeah, I think
yeah.
for me that was the most important piece is the
And
fun.
I think that's what people don't have when they go on these dates. They're like almost dreading it, or they're like, oh, I won't like them or he won't like me. But I always approached it as fun. Like, well, it's an hour of my day, and like meeting somebody new, you know. So
Yeah,
go
yeah.
well, doesn't go well, you know. Have nothing to
Interesting.
lose.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. So as you speak of these kind of limiting thoughts, it's all coming back to me. You're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah, really go. All right.
Yep.
So first dates and beyond the first dates. So yeah, what's your advice there? I mean, this is a an invaluable coaching session for
Yeah.
people here. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want them to know that it's a lot more involved than
Sure.
just this 30-40 minutes that we're doing here.
Right.
Anyway, all right, first dates and then beyond the first date.
Yeah, again, this is kind of an individual thing. Most people, most coaches would recommend a really short first date, you know, like coffee or lunch or something where like if you don't like the person, you can bail, or, oh, sorry, I have a meeting I need to get to, which isn't a bad idea. And some people say, oh, it shouldn't last more than 2 hours. And I don't believe in putting any time limits on it or any kind of situation limits, because honestly, the best dates I've been on are the ones that lasted the longest. You know, we liked each other enough to just stay there and talk. Like my boyfriend, I don't know how long our first date was maybe 4 or 5 hours. We just like really liked each other. And so I don't think that's a bad thing because it turned out great. But other people would argue, oh, that's too long. But, you know, I really think it just depends on the person. I think it's safer to do, you know, like a coffee or a drink or something quick just in case you don't really hit it off. Certainly you want to be in public somewhere. You don't want to go over to someone's house. I've heard stories, especially like on Tinder, where like a girl will go over to a guy's house when she's never even met him, and like, he could be a serial killer. So don't do that. And smile, have fun. A lot of people ask about who pays the bill, because it's not necessarily traditional where like maybe the man didn't ask the woman out. I always say to women, well, to men, I would say, prepare to be a gentleman and pay for it. But for women, I always say, at least ask to split the bill. What's my share of it? If he says, oh, no, I've got it. I grew up with a very chivalrous father, but yet I'm still kind of a feminist. I know a lot of people think that's an oxymoron, but I think it's just nice and polite for the man to pay at least on the first date, or at least want to. But if he doesn't, I'll gladly pay for myself. But, a lot of women argue, no, it's the man who has to pay. But, everybody has their own opinion about that. But I don't know. At worst case scenario, I think you should split the bill. Ask questions about the other person, but don't make it like too much of a one-way interview. I went on a date once with a guy who fired me question after question after question, and I noticed his nonverbals after a while, and his hands were like, rubbing his hand like this. He just seemed really nervous, and so I came to the conclusion that he was probably a shy guy, and his body language showed that, and it's almost as if somebody said to him, hey, well, just ask her a lot of questions on the date and then it'll go fine. And I don't mind talking about myself, but, I want to know about him too. I felt like I was on a job interview or something. So, make sure it's a two-way thing. And, and the mindset, like I just said, on a first date, just have the mindset of, hey, let's just have fun. It's just a new person you're meeting. It's not like, if you don't like each other, so what? It's not a personal rejection. I mean, all of us have had people who don't like us. If you don't like me, well, this guy might, or vice versa. So it's really about just a good match. It's not about whether you're worthy or being rejected. So, just.
I think it's somewhat natural to, in relationships, to not stay in the present moment and really project into the future. And,
it is hard.
Yeah. And a lot of people do it. And, is this worth the investment? Is this going to go anywhere? And they're asking that before they finish their first cup of coffee a lot of times.
Right.
And it's just absurd. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that. I was guilty of that. Again, everybody has their own philosophy. Like, I'm the kind of person where I either click with someone right away, and if I don't, I'm not so sure. Like, some people, like I have a friend who, she started dating her now husband the same time that my boyfriend and I did. And she's always on the fence about him because she's like, he's a really great guy, but I'm really not attracted to him. But she ended up marrying him. If that were me, I wouldn't have gone any further because I'm not an on the fence kind of person. I'm either all in or I'm all out. So some people think, well, if after a first date you're not sure, well, just keep going out with them. But, for me personally, if I'm not sure about them after the first date, I probably don't want a second date. But again, everybody's different. It's about what you're comfortable with. So.
Yeah, it's about the beauty of getting older is you know what you want.
Right.
And if you have options, you don't have to pick something you don't want. And that's part of the confidence and the things that you're talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and then let me see. This kind of intrigued me. What are the common dating practices of like, have things changed in the last 10 years or since?
Well, I think since the rise of technology and, smartphones and all of that, back when I was a kid, this kind of stuff never happened. But there are a lot of these terms that have been invented these days to explain some usually bad dating practices. Like one is called love bombing. Love bombing is where, like, let's say a guy is coming on really strong at first. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're such beautiful. Oh, you're so amazing. You know, like he's like bombing you with all these compliments and love, and it makes you go, wow, he really likes me. That's awesome. It makes you feel good about yourself. But then, you know, after the bomb goes off, he like disappears. You know, like he hooks you in really fast with all of those great words, and then you're like, whoa, what happened to you? You know, so usually those kind of people aren't really that genuine. They're just kind of using that as a trick, not trick really, to kind of reel you in, really for their own ego. So that's one of them. Ghosting is another common practice where, like, that happened to me once. I was seeing this guy for, I don't know, close to 2 months. He lived about a little over an hour away, but I don't know, like, we got along really well. I mean, I did have some issues with him because we had very different like communication styles and texting styles, which I wasn't sure was going to work in the long run. But I don't know, one day he just stopped texting me, and I'm like, who does that? You don't officially break up. You know, you don't say, oh, you know, this isn't going to work out. You know, good luck. You just like stop all communication. Although he did and has since gotten back into touch, wanting another chance. But so that happens a lot. I think it happens a lot because it's easy to do these days. You know, you don't have to look somebody in the face now and break up with them. You can just like slink away and not have to give them an explanation, which I think is terrible, but it happens a lot. Another one is called breadcrumbing, where like you give the person just enough to kind of keep them interested, but you never really follow through. You know, like maybe if you're talking, oh yeah, we're gonna meet soon, and then they never make plans. But you're still like, okay, you know, they're feeding you breadcrumbs, but nothing really ever comes of it. Of course, catfishing. You know, everybody's probably heard that term, where you know there are a lot of fake profiles out there. I've seen on Dr. Phil so many times these poor like middle-aged women who fall in love with somebody they met on a dating site, but you know they're overseas and they can't get back, and they need them to send them money, and so you know there are a lot of scams that go on with that too.
Oh my goodness. So this is like a whole new vernacular now. There's
I know, it's like
ghosting, breadcrumbing. What was the other one?
Love bombing.
Love bombing. Yeah, I mean, wow. Oh my gosh.
I know, that's just a few of them. So especially if, you know, say you're in a long marriage and you're just getting divorced and you're just jumping into this world, this new dating world of technology, it can be kind of like, wow, make your head spin. What's happening?
It is a quagmire. Oh my gosh. Interesting. You know, and you know, and I know how popular you are, but I really didn't realize. And obviously, so do you just focus on people who are divorced or like who do you? I mean, obviously your experience kind of lends you towards that, but I think my understanding is you can really help anybody, young singles.
Yeah, absolutely. Age,
seniors, yeah.
No, because you know, like I said in the very beginning of this, I think a lot of people just really don't know who or what they're looking for or who they are even. So I start there, and then, you know, I help with their profiles, set it up so it's, you know, it'll track the right person and help them look at other people's profiles, you know, point out like, did you see what they said or didn't say here? It might be a red flag. So yeah, I mean, there's no limit to who I can help.
But you're also, I think what I really like about it is you're helping them get in touch with who they are.
Yeah.
And who they want to attract.
Right.
And also helping them get in touch with the fact that, hey, I'm worthwhile, like, you know, have a little posture in the whole situation.
Yes.
All right. You know, I'm not going to hook on to the first guy that shows interest or a girl that shows interest.
I always say that our outer world is a reflection of our inner world, meaning if we're all chaotic inside, then our outer world is going to be chaotic. If we're peaceful and love ourselves, then usually our outer world is the same. And the same thing with people. I believe we attract who we are. So if you're this insecure, self-hating person, you're probably going to attract another person who hates themselves and doesn't treat you well.
Right.
You don't want to attract those people. You need to work on yourself first and make sure you're putting out the right vibes to attract the right person, you know, because you see so many times people get into these patterns, you know, like so many women like keep picking men who abuse them, you know, either verbally or mentally or emotionally. Well, it's because they feel that way about themselves. And, you know, like if anyone said a bad word to me, I'd be like, see ya, I'm out of here. You know, I'm not going to put up with that. But
Right.
many people don't, you know, they grew up differently and they don't feel the same way about themselves. So yeah, starting with yourself is huge.
And it's, you know, and it's really, there's so many options now with online dating. It gives you such a great opportunity to meet a lot of
Mhm.
people quickly. You should,
Yeah.
I would say you should be less likely to settle, but you would, I don't know if you feel that, is that accurate or no?
That people are less likely to settle if they do online dating.
They should be less likely.
I would say it is less likely to settle. And that's a blessing and a curse because on the blessing side, it's great because, you know, it kind of opens up your options. But on the curse side of it, I think that's why a lot of people get into these disrespectful practices that I just talked about, like the ghosting or the love bombing or breadcrumbing. Like you can just disappear easily, like, and be on your phone 2 seconds later, swiping right or left and finding somebody else. You know, it seems like people are less committed or less willing to commit these days because the next person is right around the corner. You know, all I have to do is pick up my phone and there's somebody else. You know,
Wow.
so it's good and bad, you know, it depends. I do believe, unfortunately, the downside of it, it has bred kind of this culture of like being disrespectful to people if you choose to use it that way. Obviously, not everybody's that way, but, you know, it, I've
If
seen.
it's, so I think what you're saying is it facilitates really good behavior, and but it also can facilitate really bad behavior.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I guess well, Carol, we're going on an hour here. It feels like it's been 10 minutes.
It does.
Do you have anything else you wanted to add in or say, or?
I don't know. I guess just you know, just really take the time, you know, anyone who's listening to this, really take the time to think about, like I said, everything, yourself, your profile, and really look for red flags too, not just in somebody's profile, but even as a relationship progresses, because, you know, as we get to know somebody, we get to know more and more, and their true self comes out. And so, you know, there are a lot of red flags that might be popping up that you might not be seeing or choosing to ignore. I know in the past, in past relationships, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that red flag and I ignored it. Look how that turned out. So, you know, just kind of keep your eyes open, because as great as somebody might seem at first, maybe they're really not that great or not as compatible with you. So, you know, just really approach dating in general, especially online dating, you know, with an open heart, but also cautiously looking at the person's true self and seeing, you know, how well you guys match.
Yeah. You know, I have to say, this is like, obviously I'm married, I'm out of the thing, but this is for people who are going through this now, this
Yeah.
is an incredibly valuable resource. And they really need someone like you to coach them through the process,
Yeah.
especially if they've struggled, if they are struggling, if they're new to the dating world, if they've been in a long-term. I mean, there's, because now breadcrumbing, catfishing, love bombing. I mean, there's a whole nother vernacular that's developed
Exactly.
since I was in 2006 and 7 and 8.
Yep.
Well, Carol, this has been phenomenal.
Good. I
And
loved it.
yeah. All your like contact and social media handles will be embedded in the video. It's obviously
Okay,
on the
great.
website. And I'm going to put you on the spot. We'd love to have you
Mhm.
back, you know,
Oh, I'd love to
especially
come back.
if you write a new book or something, we'd love
Yeah,
to hear it,
anytime.
because this is really such great meat and potatoes type information. And you handle the gender thing like a pro. You're really, really phenomenal. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This is Dr. Stephen Cangiano signing off for RDT Media and Events, Inc. Thank you very much.